The Book of Tea. This is a famous philosophical and cultural book written by the Japanese scholar and author Okakura Kakuzo. This book doesn't just talk about tea. Through it, the author tries to explain Japanese culture, aesthetics, and Eastern philosophy as a whole. In this book, tea is not described as an ordinary drink. Instead, it is viewed as a spiritual experience. The author explains how the tea ceremony becomes a symbol of peace, discipline, and beauty in Japanese life. This book was originally published in English in 1906. It was written not for Japan, but with Western readers in mind. At that time, Okakura Kakuzo was working in America and Europe as a spokesperson for Japanese art and culture. The book didn't gain much popularity at first, but gradually, it became a classic for understanding Eastern philosophy, one that remains relevant even today. Today, it is considered an important text for understanding Japanese culture and Zen thought. Okakura Kakuzo was born in 1862 in Japan. He was an art critic, a philosopher, and a cultural reformer, a social reformer in every sense. He played a major role in introducing Japanese art and Asian culture to the Western world. He believed that tea is the religion of the art of life. His other well-known thinking centered on preserving art, beauty, and Eastern traditions. And it was with this in mind that this book was written. So let's go through this book's 7 chapters, one by one. Chapter 1. The Cup of Humanity. The story of human civilization is often told through wars and technological progress. But if we look deeper, humanity's most subtle and quiet expressions are just as important. The first chapter of the Book of Tea leads us toward exactly this perspective, where an ordinary cup of tea can reflect the entire story of humanity. The author also tries to explain to us that tea is not a drink. It is a cultural language. It is the language that tries to connect human to human without words. When two people share a cup of tea together, what exists there isn't merely taste, but an invisible understanding and a sense of commonness. This is the core idea of the cup of humanity. Humanity's shared cup, in which every human being can share their thoughts and sit together in peace. Throughout human history, different civilizations have built different ideals. The West has valued power, speed, and outward expansion, while Eastern philosophy prioritized peace, balance, and inner beauty. The author explains this difference through the symbol of tea. Tea is a slow process. It doesn't rush. It demands stillness. And it is this stillness that gives a person the chance to look within themselves. The cup of tea reminds us that life isn't only about big goals and achievements, but also about experiencing the beauty hidden in small moments. When a person drinks tea, they step out of the world's race for a while. This withdrawal is itself the first step of spirituality. The author says that human society often gets entangled in complexities of its own making. Humans have built religion, politics, and social structures. And sometimes, instead of connecting people, these divide them. In such a context, something as simple as tea becomes a symbol of equality. Because tea is equally available to every class, every culture, and every individual. Whether rich or poor, ordinary or intellectual, everyone is held in the same kind of teacup. Within this simplicity lies humanity's true beauty. The author says that when we make something excessively complex, we lose its soul. But tea teaches us that truth is often simple. And simplicity itself is the deepest form of depth. Eastern philosophy gives great importance to empty space or emptiness. The teacup is also a symbol of this idea. Only when the cup is empty does it hold the possibility of being filled. In the same way, the human mind can only learn when it is empty of ego and prejudice. The author presents this idea beautifully, that true knowledge lies not in filling, but in emptying. This idea is just as relevant to modern life. Today, humans are full of information, but growing empty of understanding. The simple philosophy of tea reminds us that pausing, becoming calm, and becoming empty is also an art of living. The progress of human civilization has often centered on outward achievements, while inner development has been given less importance. The author raises the question of whether technological progress is truly making us more human, or whether we are drifting further from our own humanity. Here, the cup of tea becomes a symbol, a medium that tries to reconnect us to our original humanity. When we drink tea for a few moments, we set aside our social roles and remain only human. At that moment, we are neither king nor poor, neither scholar, but a human being, like a living soul. The author explains that in Eastern culture, beauty is not merely outward decoration. It is not showing off. Rather, it exists in every small act of life, making, serving, and drinking tea. All of this is an art. This art demands discipline, meditation, and respect. This is why the tea ceremony is not merely a social gathering, but is considered a spiritual practice. In this process, every action is slow and meaningful. There is awareness in every moment, and this very awareness teaches humans to live in the present. Another deep message of the Cup of Humanity is that connecting humanity doesn't require grand principles, but small experiences. Often, big ideas divide us, but small experiences try to bring us together. A small cup of tea is a small experience, one that can bring people together without any condition. This idea becomes even more important in the modern world, where people remain digitally connected, yet grow emotionally distant. The symbol of tea reminds us that real connection isn't behind a screen. It exists in shared moments. In the end, this chapter also tries to teach us that humanity's true identity lies not in power or wealth, but in those simple moments where we are present with one another in peace and respect. The cup of tea is itself a symbol of that presence. When we share tea, we don't just share something to drink. We share a piece of time, silence, and existence. And this is exactly the space where humanity truly reveals itself. Chapter 2, The Schools of Tea. When human civilization adopts something simple over time, it doesn't remain merely a habit. It becomes a philosophy. It becomes a culture. And gradually, it becomes a new way of seeing life. This is exactly what happened with tea. What was once just an ordinary drink gradually became, in the Eastern world, a medium for beauty, meditation, and self-awareness. In this chapter, Okakura Kakuzo also tries to explain that tea is not a uniform tradition. Rather, several schools of thought and cultural currents developed within it. Each school looked at tea from a different perspective, and each perspective gave human consciousness a different direction. Tea takes us from a simple drink to a deep culture. Tea's beginning was very simple. First a plant, then a leaf, and a cup of hot water. But as human sensitivity grew, people began to recognize the beauty hidden in this simple thing. Some viewed tea as a means to relieve bodily fatigue. Others made it a medium for social gathering. But Eastern thought gave it a far deeper meaning, trying to turn it into a spiritual discipline. This is where the tea schools were born. These schools were tied to different eras, different masters, and different ideologies. But their core purpose was the same: to make life more aware, more beautiful, and more meaningful. If we look at the first perspective, it is the practical school, the school of practicality. In tea's early form, people viewed it simply as a useful object. It was a fatigue-relieving drink that gave the body energy and calmed the mind a little. In this perspective, tea held no spiritual significance. It was merely a functional object, like food or water, But this very limitation became the boundary from which tea began taking the shape of culture. Because when something remains limited to mere use, it doesn't transform life. But when that same thing becomes an experience, it transforms the human being too. The second perspective is the aesthetic school, the school of beauty. Gradually, some people began to see not just utility in tea, but beauty as well. They realized that the process of drinking tea could itself be an art. The shape of the cup, the warmth of the water, the stillness of the room, and the style of serving. All these began to be given importance, and these became the most important elements because they led us toward peace. From here, tea became a ritual of beauty. Every small action became significant, and even holding a simple cup became part of meditation. In this school of thought, it was believed that beauty exists not merely in objects, but also in the experience we feel while perceiving them. The third perspective is the Zen and meditation school, Zen influence. The deepest and most influential transformation came when tea was connected to Zen philosophy. Zen philosophy says that the truth of life is hidden not in some grand concept, but in the full awareness of the present moment. With this idea, tea stopped being merely a drink and became a meditation. Every action in making tea, boiling water, adding leaves, pouring into the cup, became a spiritual practice. Full presence became necessary in every moment. In this state, a person forgets their ego. They live neither in the past nor the future, but only in the now. The present moment. This was the greatest teaching, awareness within simplicity. And this was its greatest lesson. The tea ceremony was not merely a social gathering. It was a structured philosophy. Every action had meaning, and every movement had purpose. Even the decoration of the room was kept simple so that the mind would not wander. Guests were welcomed with respect and silence. This entire experience taught people that life should be lived, not quickly, but mindfully. An important idea emerges in this chapter: understanding the difference between Eastern and Western perspectives. Western civilization has focused on changing the world. It is focused on science, technology, expansion, and speed. But Eastern philosophy has focused on changing the human being. It has worked to lead humans towards soul, peace, and inner balance. Tea becomes a symbol of this difference. For the West, tea may just be a beverage, but for the East, it is a philosophy of life. The author repeatedly signals that true beauty, natural beauty, is not found in complexity. It is not sophisticated, but may be hidden in simplicity. The power of tea lies in this. That it is very ordinary, yet an entire universe is hidden within it. Only when a human understands this simplicity can they connect with life's depth. Tea traditions teach humans inner discipline more than outer rules. This is why tea is inner freedom. This is a paradox of freedom. The more discipline there is in practice, the more inner freedom is produced. The tea schools teach that true freedom, real independence, is not found in the outer world, but is hidden in the peace of the mind. Chapter 3. Taoism and Zenism. The history of human thought is not merely a history of science and politics. It is the history of those invisible currents that try to shape the human soul. When we see life only as outer events, we lose its depth. But when we see life as a philosophy, then every small thing becomes a sign, and every moment becomes a message. The third chapter of the Book of Tea takes us into a deeper world, where tea is not merely a drink, but becomes a reflection of two great Eastern philosophies, Taoism and Zenism. This chapter tells us that the soul of tea is hidden not merely in its taste, but in the ideology behind it. Here, Okakura Kakuzo tries to clarify that the development of tea in Eastern civilization was not merely a social tradition. but the result of philosophical currents that discovered a new way of seeing life. Tao, or Taoism, is a philosophy that teaches that instead of controlling life, one should focus on understanding it. It says that the universe is a natural flow, and it is the human being's duty to be in harmony with that flow rather than in conflict with it. The core idea of Taoism is Wu Wei, meaning non-action or effortless action. This doesn't mean doing nothing at all. Rather, it means acting in a way that is not against nature, that is spontaneous and in flow. This very philosophy is visible in the experience of tea. When we make tea, we don't force it. We let the water boil, let the leaves open, and let the taste develop on its own. There is no violence in this, and no hurry either. This process teaches us that in life too, not everything needs to be forced. Often, good results come when we leave things to their natural timing. Taoism also teaches that real power lies in simplicity. The more a human moves toward complexity, the further they move from their roots. Nature is always simple. Trees grow without any plan. Rivers flow without any effort, and the sky changes without any anxiety. Tea is a symbol of this very simplicity. There is no showing off in a cup of tea, and no excessive decoration. But within that very simplicity, a deep experience is hidden. Taoism says that the more natural something is, the more beautiful it will be. And this idea is deeply embedded in tea culture. Taoism teaches us to flow with life, and Zenism teaches us to experience that flow with full awareness. The center point of Zen philosophy is full present moment awareness. It says that truth is not somewhere far away, but is right here and right now. But humans have become so lost in their thoughts, memories, and imagination that they cannot even see the present. Zen brings us back and tries to bring us into that simple moment where only the present moment exists. This idea is extremely clear in the experience of tea. When a person drinks tea, Zen teaches them to feel every sip with full awareness, to carry neither the burden of the past nor worry about the future, but to try to live only in the experience of the present. According to Zen, meditation is not limited to any particular place or particular posture. Meditation can be any act of life. If it is done with full awareness, meditation will be present in every act. From this view, making tea is a meditation. Whether the water is boiling, steam is rising, or the cup is warming, every action becomes like a practice. When a person is fully present in this process, they forget themselves. And this is the goal of Zen, to destroy the ego and experience pure awareness. Zen and tea share one thing in common: silence. This silence isn't emptiness. It is a meaningful presence. In the tea ceremony, people avoid unnecessary words because it is believed that words often weaken the experience. In this silence, a person begins to hear their inner voice, and this is exactly the moment where true understanding develops. Taoism and Zenism are often considered separate philosophies, but in this chapter, the author shows that both journeys are actually one, two sides of the same coin. Taoism teaches us flow, meaning how life should be lived. Zen teaches us the awareness of how to observe this flow. One gives us balance in motion, and the other gives us consciousness in stillness. Tea culture is a beautiful union of both. When we make tea, we flow with nature, and also fully experience every moment, the art of non-interference. Another important principle of Taoism is non-interference. This means not trying to unnecessarily alter nature. This is very clear in the process of tea. Leaves are allowed to open in their natural form, and water is allowed to reach its own temperature. This teaches us that often, in life, the best action is to do nothing at all. Just observe and understand. Both Zen and Taoism share the same ultimate purpose: inner balance, focusing on inner harmony. Only when a human attains inner peace can they clearly see the outer world. The experience of tea is a simple yet powerful symbol of this balance. Chapter 4. The Tea Room. The philosophy of the tea chamber. When we enter a room, we don't just enter between four walls. We enter a state of mind. Spaces are not merely physical. They shape our thoughts, our feelings, and our experiences. The 4th chapter of the Book of Tea leads us to this very deep truth. Here, the tea room is not merely an architectural structure, but a philosophical space where a person steps out of the complexities of daily life and enters simplicity, silence, and self-awareness. In this chapter, Kakuzo explains that tea is not merely a place for drinking. It is not a drinking tool, but an environment where life is experienced in its purest form. Entering the tea room is like entering a different world. Outside, the world holds noise, competition, and conflicts. But inside the tea room, there is silence and slowness and awareness. This space is deliberately made simple. There is no unnecessary decoration there, no showing off. The walls are plain, the furniture is minimal, and the atmosphere is filled with deep calm. This simplicity is not a lack. It is a peace that turns a person away from outer attractions and inward toward themselves. The most important idea of the tea room is that space is not merely physical. It is also mental. When we are in a cluttered, disorganized environment, our mind also becomes disorganized. But when we are in a calm, simple, and balanced environment, our mind also begins to calm. The possibility of the tea room is based on exactly this principle. It creates inner silence within a person by simplifying the outer world. This teaches us that to find silence, we don't always need to go inward. Sometimes the outer environment itself can take us on an inward journey. In the tea room, everything has a purpose, and every unnecessary thing is removed. Here, minimalism is not merely a style, but a life philosophy. The idea that less is more. Here, being fully alive is the point. Fewer objects, fewer distractions, and less interference, but more experience and more awareness. This is the purpose of the tea room. Within this simplicity, a deep freedom is hidden. Because when we have fewer things, our mind doesn't get entangled with them. The tea room also reminds us that everything is temporary. Wood, paper, water, or tea. Everything changes. Nothing is permanent. This idea connects to an important stream of Eastern philosophy, that life is not stable, but constantly changing. In the tea room, this impermanence becomes a beauty. There is no dread in it. Every meeting is momentary. Every experience is temporary, but still complete. Entering here is itself a ritual. This is no ordinary step. It symbolizes leaving the burdensome world behind. When a person enters the tea room, they leave their social identity, their worries, and their status outside. They enter as merely a human being, neither rich nor poor. This entry is a kind of purification. Here, silence doesn't teach us emptiness. It tries to teach us a deeper language, a language where words are not needed, because the experience itself speaks. When people drink tea together in silence, an invisible conversation is born between them. This conversation is built not through words, but through presence. This teaches us that the deepest connections are formed not always by speaking, but by feeling. Here, the role of the host is very important. The host doesn't merely serve tea. They create an experience. There is attention in their every action, and respect in every movement. They create an environment for guests where they can feel the peace within themselves. This is not service. It is an art, a spiritual responsibility that they carry out. The tea room is a kind of mirror. It doesn't introduce a person to their outer appearance, but to their inner mind. When a person sits in a calm environment, they can see themselves clearly. Their thoughts, their restlessness, and their desires all begin to surface. But this confrontation is not frightening. It is liberating. It leads toward a kind of celebration, because only when we see ourselves do we truly understand ourselves. Here, the pace of time feels different. In the outer world, time moves quickly. But in the inner world, time stands still. This is the experience of a timeless moment where the burden of the past and the future becomes very light. Only the present exists, where there is complete peace and life too. In this room, perfection cannot be found. Rather, imperfection can be accepted. The simplicity of the walls, the irregularity of objects and natural forms. All of this shows that beauty doesn't exist only in perfect things. Real beauty, natural beauty, lies in that acceptance where we see life exactly as it is. This room is not merely architecture. It is a spiritual structure. Every wall, every door, every empty space expresses an idea. This structure is built to lead a person inward. It's not a path to cut off from the outer world, but a medium to connect with the inner world. It explains to us the importance of empty space. This emptiness is not a symbol of lack, but a symbol of possibility. Empty space gives the mind a chance to breathe. It teaches us that not everything in life needs to be filled. Some space should remain empty too, so we can feel ourselves. Chapter 5. The art of appreciation. Humans often think that knowledge lies in learning something new. But Eastern philosophy leads us to a different truth. It says that true knowledge is hidden, not in the capacity to see, but in the capacity to know. Only when we can truly see an object, a moment, or an experience, do we understand it. The 5th chapter of this book leads us to exactly this deep understanding. Here, tea is not a drink, but becomes a medium for appreciation, the art of appreciation. This art teaches us that the beauty of life is hidden not in some great achievement, but in experiencing small moments with full awareness. Okakura tells us that the Western world has often tried to understand things through analysis, while the Eastern perspective has tried to understand them through experience. And this difference is the real root of appreciation. What is appreciation? Let's try to understand this. Appreciation doesn't merely mean calling something good or complimenting it. Rather, it is a far deeper state. It is the moment when the mind becomes calm and observes an object or experience without any prejudice, without any expectation, and without any comparison. When we look at a flower, instead of naming or categorizing it, we simply feel its existence. We neither give it a name nor try to categorize it. When we drink tea, we don't just taste it. We live that moment. This is true appreciation, seeing without obstruction, and experiencing without interpretation, without explanation. And this is true appreciation. In tea culture, every action is a practice. Tea as a practice of seeing, and appreciation is its soul. When tea is made, it is not merely a process. It is a slowly unfolding experience. Whether it's the warmth of the water, the opening of the leaves, or the rising of the steam, all these things teach us that beauty is hidden, not in motion, but in awareness. When we watch this process with attention, all our restlessness begins to settle. An important philosophical idea in this chapter is that it tries to erase the distance between the observer and the observed. In ordinary life, we always keep the one who sees and the thing being seen separate. We think we are watching the outer world, but in the deep state of appreciation, this distinction dissolves. When we fully feel a moment, we no longer remain separate from that moment. We become a part of it. This experience is called oneness in Zen philosophy. The greatest foundation of the art of appreciation is attention. But this isn't ordinary attention. It is an attention in which there is no effort, only presence. In today's world, human attention is constantly scattered, whether in thoughts, in technology, or in future anxieties. But tea culture brings us back to a simple truth, that the moment we are living in is the real one. An important idea in Eastern philosophy is that it doesn't search for beauty only in special things. An ordinary cup, an ordinary room, or an ordinary action. Beauty exists deeply in all of these too, but seeing it requires vision. And the art of appreciation gives us exactly this perspective. It teaches us that there's no need to search for extraordinary things. Rather, fully seeing the ordinary is enough. History has seen many tea masters who considered this art the highest form of living life. They didn't just make tea, they created experiences. Their greatest quality was cultivating sensitivity. They could feel every small change, whether the temperature of the water, the movement of the air, or the atmosphere of the room. This sensitivity made them not just artists, but also deeply aware of life. In this chapter, silence is given a very important place. Silence doesn't mean emptiness. It is the space where the mind can see without any obstruction. When words end, experience begins. In tea tradition, silence is important because it pulls the mind away from surface thoughts and takes it into depth. The art of appreciation also teaches us that not everything needs to be judged immediately. We often close off an experience quickly by calling it good or bad. But true appreciation lies in pausing judgment. When we look without judgment, without deciding, things reveal themselves in their true form. The experience of tea also gives emotional clarity. When we are fully present in the process of tea, the mind's tangles gradually settle. This is no magic. It is the power of meditation. In the state of appreciation, the mind becomes simple, and only a simple mind can see clarity. This is not a fixed state. It is a flow. Just as water flows, experience too keeps changing. When we connect with this flow, we stop struggling with life. And this is exactly where peace is born. Appreciation doesn't just give us the ability to see outer things. It also gives a path to inner transformation. When we try to see the world from a new perspective, we also see ourselves in a new form. And our thoughts, our reactions, and our feelings become more balanced. Tea as a way of living. Tea is not merely a ritual. It is a way of life. It teaches that living each moment mindfully is the real life. The art of appreciation also teaches us that there's no need to change life. Rather, the way we look at it should change. Chapter 6, The Flowers, the Philosophy of Flowers. Humans have always searched for beauty, but often they try to find beauty in something big, shiny, or extraordinary. Eastern philosophy points in a different direction. It says that beauty is not in big things, but is hidden in simple, momentary, and natural things. The 6th chapter of the Book of Tea tries to lead us toward exactly this subtle vision. Here, flowers are not merely decoration, but a symbol of life's deep truth, impermanence, simplicity, and natural beauty. This is what it tries to teach us. Okakura explains that in tea culture, flowers are used not merely for beauty, but as a medium to express life philosophy. The greatest quality of flowers is hidden not in their beauty, but in their impermanence. They bloom, and they bloom in their full beauty, and then gradually, they wither, meaning they fade. This process reminds us of the truth of life, that nothing here is permanent, nothing here is stable. Everything is impermanence. In Eastern philosophy, this idea runs deep, that everything is changing, and what changes is what is real. Flowers teach this truth without words. When we look at a flower, we don't just see beauty, we are also watching time pass. An important aesthetic principle in tea culture is Wabi Sabi. This principle says that beauty lies not in perfection, but in imperfection, in simplicity and naturalness. A broken flower, a bent leaf, or a wilting bloom. All these are beautiful in their own way, because they are real. They don't hide the truth of life, but reveal it. In this world of flowers, we learn that perfection is an illusion, while imperfection is the truth of life. The placement of flowers in the tea room is chosen very thoughtfully. Here, flowers are kept not for grandeur, not for decoration, but for balance and silent beauty. Often, only a single flower or a single branch is chosen. This choice teaches us that beauty doesn't lie in abundance, but in the right restraint. A single flower can change the entire feeling of a room. When we look at a flower with full awareness, it no longer remains merely an object. It becomes an experience. Its petals, its buds, its fragrance and color. All of this together brings us into a state of calm meditation. This experience tries to bring us into the present moment. At that time, we are neither worrying about the past nor the future, but feeling the beauty of the present. Flowers are the most delicate expressions of nature. They bloom without any effort, are beautiful without any desire, and wither without any complaint. This naturalness itself is their greatest beauty. Eastern philosophy also tries to teach us that humans should live the same way, naturally, simply, and without excessive interference. Flowers don't speak, but they certainly teach something. They teach us that there's no need to keep life under control. They teach us that everything blooms in its own time and ends in its own time, and this process itself is part of life. Another deep message of this chapter is that change itself is beautiful. Western philosophy often values permanence, but the Eastern perspective is somewhat opposite to this. In the world of flowers, nothing is fixed. Every moment is something new. This change gives us an opportunity, not to fear, but to understand. In tea culture, flower arrangements are extremely simple. Here, the purpose is not showing off, but feeling. Even an ordinary flower can change the entire atmosphere if placed with the right sentiment. This teaches us that in life too, deeper meaning can be achieved with fewer things. The art of flowers also teaches us that empty space is just as important as filled space. Where there are no flowers, there is also a meaningful emptiness. This emptiness gives the mind space to breathe, and this balance itself becomes the foundation of beauty. The experience of flowers isn't merely visual, it is also emotional. They produce peace, tenderness, and sensitivity within the mind. When we look at them carefully, our mind also softens. This softness makes us more human. Tea masters didn't view flowers merely as decoration. They understood them as a living language. Every flower carried a message of peace and simplicity. This is why they chose flowers with great care. The flower and its placement are not separate from each other. Rather, they, together, create a complete experience. A flower alone can be beautiful, but in the right environment, it gives an even deeper meaning. This teaches us that in life too, things hold meaning only within their context. Chapter 7, the final chapter, Tea Masters, the life of the masters of tea. In human civilization, there are some people who don't merely learn an art, but make it the very form of their life. For them, art is no longer an outer practice. It becomes their existence. The final chapter of the Book of Tea takes us into the world of exactly these individuals, the tea masters, who gave tea not merely as a drink, but as a philosophy of life. Here, Okakura Kakuzo tries to show that tea masters were not people of a single profession. They were practitioners who had absorbed beauty, discipline, silence, and awareness into their lives. For them, making tea was not an ordinary action. It was a spiritual discipline. Now the question arises, who is a tea master? A tea master is a person who has adopted the art of tea, not merely as a technique, but as meditation and life philosophy. For them, every action is important, whether boiling water, choosing a cup, arranging flowers, or welcoming a guest. But behind all of this, there is no showing off, only a calm, balanced, and aware presence. A tea master remains active in the outer world, but inwardly, they are completely calm. The greatest characteristic of their life is that, for them, art and life are not separate. Ordinary people consider art an activity, something practiced for a period of time. But for the tea master, life itself is art, and art itself is life. Every moment was a creation, and every action was a meditation. This idea explains to us that when life and art become separate, both become incomplete. The life of a tea master was extremely simple, but this simplicity was not ignorance. Rather, it was a chosen simplicity. They stayed away from unnecessary things so that their mind could remain clear and calm. For them, fewer things became a medium of deeper meaning. And in a simple cup, or a simple room, or even a simple flower, they could see the entire world. The silence in the lives of tea masters was very important. But this silence was not their weakness. It was a deep inner strength. They spoke less because they felt more. For them, words often limited experience. This is why they made silence a medium, so they could live the experience in its purest form. The greatest quality of tea masters was their aesthetic sensitivity, their capacity to feel beauty. They could give extraordinary beauty, even to ordinary things, a bent flower, soft light, or the sound of water. Everything held meaning for them. This sensitivity connected them to the world, but it also carried inner freedom. They were never in a hurry. There was full presence in their every action. When they made tea, they only made tea. When they met a guest, they only met the guest. This single-minded presence was itself their greatest practice. For tea masters, the tea ceremony was not a formal program. It was a living meditation. There was awareness in every movement, every pause, and every touch. This process took them away from their ego and closer to pure consciousness. The outer life of tea masters looked simple, but their inner life was extremely deep. They participated in the rush of the world while remaining unaffected by it. Their mind was like a calm lake, where outer disturbances touched only the surface, not the depths. Their greatest achievement was that they were among the most mature examples of inner freedom. They didn't depend on outer circumstances. They could remain calm even in poverty, and balanced even in prosperity. Because their happiness depended less on outer things and more on their inner state. The life of the masters teaches us that the pursuit of more is truly an illusion. They knew that what is enough is the real wealth. Only when a human lets go of the desire for more do they truly become wealthy. They had a very close relationship with nature. They didn't try to control nature, but flowed along with it. Flowers, wind, water, or weather. All of this was part of their life. For them, nature wasn't something separate. They themselves were a part of it. The life of tea masters was an aesthetic life, meaning seeing and living beauty in everything. But this beauty was not outward. It was inward. It was a vision, a calm and sensitive way of seeing the world. Tea masters are not merely individuals. They are a symbol of the human being who lives life with full awareness. They remind us that every person can become a tea master within themselves if they embrace attention, simplicity, and presence. And with this, our book comes to an end. We'll meet you again on a new episode of Audivoo with a new book.